Switching gears a second, you know, our sport doesn't have seasons. We're constantly on. We don't just have a soccer ball that we can put away and, you know, go on with our life. And these are living, breathing animals that require daily attention 24/7. All leading up to the fact that it is hard to turn off, especially during circuit. You know, 13 weeks of go, go, go. We get one day off a week, and do we really?
No.
So the most important part for people, I think, is figuring out how to balance and how to turn off. In saying that, do you have any outside activities or things that you like to do to help keep your mind free?
That's a good question. And I wish I had a better answer than, like, probably either I love Pilates.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a set period of time.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's 50 minutes. I know that's my 50 minutes to focus on myself.
You don't have your phone on you.
I don't have my phone on me, which is my screen time is insane. So I'm glad I don't have my phone on me during those 50 minutes. Or playing pickleball, honestly, with my friends. I feel like that's such a release.
You play pickleball?
I love pickleball.
I love pickleball.
I love pickleball. But I feel like it's like a release of energy, either whether it's good energy if you had a bad day, or if it's bad energy if you had a bad day, good energy if you had a good day, hanging out with the people that you want to hang out with. But I really do think that setting at least, whether it's 10 minutes or an hour of your day for yourself, I feel like that's really important, especially during kind of the winter season, the WEF circuit.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's 13 weeks of go, go, go. You really don't get much of a day off. And yeah, I feel like that's important for me, especially balancing school and riding.
Yes.
I usually do school at night during the week, and then I have weekends off, but that's all riding.
Yeah. Weekends off.
Yeah, weekends off, I wish.
And then Monday back to school.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, how about you? What do you do for your...
When I was younger, I used to think that if I fully immersed myself in this sport, that's the only way I could like stay ahead or in the know, and you know, the only way I could keep rolling. I mean, this sport is just so fast paced, and you skip a beat, you know, you feel so behind afterward. And
FOMO.
I think that I realized, you know, my family is not in horses. And so anytime I would come back on a break or over Christmas, I would go home and they wouldn't talk about horses. They'd ask me how it's going, how are these horses, and are you having fun still? Is this still what you want to do? And I'd say, yes, it's great. And then that was it, you know. Then we'd sit around a dinner table and we'd talk, you know, about politics or what's going on in the world. And in the beginning, I would go home and I'd be a little bit frustrated because I was like, no one's talking about horses. Like, all I want to talk about is horses. And as the years rolled by, I started to realize how lucky I was in a sense that I could turn off and not talk about horses, and how actually healthy that was for me. And I also realized how much I was missing of the world.
Yeah.
And if you put our sport, you know, I love our sport. Our sport's amazing, but at the end of the day, you're jumping horses over sticks. You know, we're not curing cancer. So we forget sometimes we put this on such a pedestal and of such importance that we forget that there's a world outside of our world. And I love tapping back into that now. And I think it's so great and so healthy. And I think it puts things back in perspective.
Right.
And outside activities, love playing pickleball. I really started picking up a lot of outside activities like this past 2 summers, I think, because I was like a little bit light on horses. You know, I didn't have any big FEI horses. I didn't really have to like plan it so much ahead. I had some clients that wanted to stay more local. And I started to realize, I was like, I'm going to go out of my mind if I'm just like fully immersed in horses and not fully immersed in the horses and not jumping at the level that I want to jump at. I think I'm just going to drive myself insane. So I wanted to find some aspect where I could just take myself out of horses entirely and focus on a different situation. I love sports, so like pickleball.
Yeah.
We play pickleball so much. Like I think I'm supposed to go over in the next hour to play pickleball. And that's been fantastic because we play with horse people, but they're not riders.
Right.
They're involved in the show somehow, and that's also very fun. I picked up paddle as well, so that's also very fun. I need to test out my new racket. And, you know, picked up running again. So it was very interesting, I think, to me this past, 2 years, I would say. Just, you know, after the passing of my favorite horse, Cawley, I think it just, it took a little bit out of me of, you know, was that my last opportunity? That was my horse of a lifetime. Will I ever get another horse of a lifetime? And he meant so much to me that I think I just, I needed to take a step out of horses.
Right.
But still be involved because I just have so much passion for the sport. And then that's also when I started the sidelines gig for some of the night classes. So that kind of kept me involved without me being obsessively immersed in this sport. You know, I'm 36 years old, you're 18 years old. I'm still learning that. And I'm still learning about the balance. And I think if I could go back and tell myself, I wouldn't listen. But if I could tell myself, you know, I think importance is divide your time and find boundaries. Boundaries is my big word to use, especially if you turn pro and you have clients and you have your time. Your time is so precious and valuable. And I think just figuring out what you want to define your time as, and don't be guilt tripped into thinking just because you're not thinking about horses or planning your client's schedule at that moment on a Monday, take that time for you. Don't even plan appointments, you know what, just a mental health break. So that's my unsolicited advice to you.
Thank you.
You didn't ask for it, but I'm giving it.
No, I feel like I need to kiss your feet right now.
I think it's the guilt thing for me. Yeah. I just felt guilty if I wasn't doing something, especially if I was proving to everyone that this is what I wanted to do. I know it costs so much money. I know it takes so much time. I know it takes everything. And so it's if I wasn't 24/7 thinking about it or figuring out ways how to improve myself about it, I felt guilty that I wasn't doing something productive. Yeah. And I was okay, well, I feel like a failure today. So now my Mondays, I don't plan anything. I'm okay if I sit in bed all day. I would drive myself crazy.
Yeah,
but that's okay. If I do that, I will not feel guilty. Ellie, you deserve this. Great. Good for you. Good girl. So.
And then 7 a.m. on Tuesday hits and you're barn?
Barn. And that's the thing. I need only a 2-day vacation and I am recharged. I am back again. Speaking of vacation.
Oh no.
Do you have any next vacation plans? How are you on vacations? Can you turn off?
Okay.
Do you go on vacations?
Actually, that's not true. I went on one very long vacation, I want to say 2 years ago, with my family, and I went to Africa, which was about as far as you can get away from the horses.
Except if you take an African safari via horseback.
I missed that. I did not do that. But we went African safari via buggy in the middle of the bush, and it was 2.5 weeks long, and by the end of it, both my mom and I were crawling our eyes out. We were this was all great and fine. We've seen enough giraffes. Let's go home now. And I was whenever I feel I don't want to go to the barn today. I'm I don't want to go to the barn today. I just think you could be in Africa right now. You couldn't be so far away from the horses. Yeah. And I just, every morning I'd wake up and be I hope everything is being done properly, with my horses while I'm gone. I'm not there to to oversee it and everything like that. Okay, that was a very long vacation, but I'd say I can turn my brain off for maybe 3 days without the horses, and then and then I start to think about it too much, and I'm okay, well, I need to be there, overseeing, making sure everything's being taken care of properly. The one thing, my mare Corlencia, she has to have turnout every single day. If it's raining, she will stand in the paddock in the rain, no bother, eating her grass every day. And that's her one thing that she needs every single day. Yeah. And I just kept waking up and being I really hope she gets turned out today. She needs to get turned out today. She's gonna burn the barn down if she doesn't get turned out today. So yeah, I'd say I'm 50-50 on the vacations thing.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Especially if you're going with your family, and I could see your mother also
My
being
mom,
similar to you.
my grandmother,
Yeah.
and Stacia.
Yeah.
Those were the three on the vacation. And my
Stacia went on the vacation.
and
And what about your brother?
oh, he was there too.
Oh.
Him and my dad were there too. But those were like the three main characters of that whole vacation.
And how does your brother cope with all the horse family?
Um,
He rode did he?
he
Rode when he was
rode-
younger.
He was on and off for like a year,
Okay.
and then he was like, "No, I can't." He doesn't have the patience for it. I think is his biggest thing. He'll like pet a horse every once in a while, and he really wanted a car the other weekend, I have to say, but it's okay.
Were you trying to win the car for him?
I was, and
Aw.
he texted me in the morning. He was like, "Taylor, I will love you so much if you win me this car." And I was like, "Well, sorry to break it to you, Connie, but
What happens if I don't win the car?
yeah, exactly." I'm like, "Wait, I thought you have to love me anyway." But
Do you guys have a good relationship, being inside and one outside the horses?
I would say we do. We live two completely different worlds, which I think it's hard for that matter. Like a lot of people don't even know I have a brother because he's not involved as much. But I'd say the group of kids that I'm in right now, JJ Toronto, Olivia Sweetenham, Colin Sweetenham, like we're all so close because we grew up together.
Yeah.
And even though my brother
Connor
doesn't
knows all
ride,
them too, yeah.
we're all so close.
Yep.
And I think having a good community like that around you in this sport is important because you can talk to them about the hard things and you can also have a good laugh with them and hang out and not talk about horses,
Yeah.
which is a good balance, I think, to have.
I agree.
What has been one of the hardest moments, one of the best moments, and what have you learned from both in this sport so far?
Good question, Taylor.
Came up with it myself.
It's hard to nail down just like one. I might use one or two examples. If we're starting hardest first, I think mentally, I think that one of the hardest for me recently was losing one of my best horses, Cawley. I think that took a lot emotionally out of me, and coupled with the fact that he, made progress and then regressed, and for 49 days that happened, and also for those 49 days I got to see him like happy and I got to see him in pain, and that did something on my psyche, but not just that, the fact that I had to keep going. I had clients that were showing, I had horses that were showing, owners that wanted me to show, so I kind of had to always put that in the back of my head. And then finally, when we decided it was best, that he told us he was ready. And so that was really a struggle as well, because it was during circuit, and again, I had to, the next week, we had to show again. And so I think, anybody that's had to put such a great animal down, or some horse that they've really connected with, that was really taxing, I think, on me. And then I would also say another challenge, or one of the hardest parts, like professionally speaking, was especially when I turned pro and I realized that, you're a great rider, cool. So are all these other people. What makes you stand out? And I thought originally, like, my riding will speak for me. You may not know it, but I am soft-spoken generally, especially when speaking of myself. So I think selling myself was such a struggle. I hate talking about myself in that way, like selling myself to try and get investors to buy me horses. Like, please buy me this really expensive animal. It may or may not work out.
Yeah.
You may or may not get your money back. It could get hurt in the field the next day, but I really would like to ride it.
Yeah.
I think that has been and is still such a struggle for me professionally to do. I think some of the best aspects of this sport and of my life in this sport, I think one example was when I did, I think, really my first like real senior team, which was in Jalapa, and this was a Nations Cup that counted for the U.S. in order to go to the finals, and we got 3 of them, and one was in Mexico, and one was in Canada, and one was in the USA. And so this, game on for us, and one of my first, I think, Nations Cups with Cawley, and we were the only double clear pair, and that was just so extremely rewarding. Like, what a special day, and I just, like, I just remember, like, I like thinking of that, and I just have this picture, like, you know, galloping with the little sash and the cooler, and like a huge smile on my face, and then sitting in the press conference, and because at the time I didn't know I was the only double clear, and so they had interviewed me like that. I was like, oh my God, I won. Like, that was so cool. That was such an exciting, pivotal moment, I think, for me. Generally speaking, I've really taken a lot of gratitude and, I guess, excitement from feeling like I've developed horses, you know, not just gotten those like made horses, competed on them successfully. Cawley being an earlier horse that I really took as a young horse up to the highest ranks. And then after that, I did so with some other partners that, you know, sent me horses. Maybe there were hard horses for them to sell, or they just didn't get along with that horse. And I paired so nicely with a lot of those horses. So I really thought that was the first couple times that I took these horses that either were young or, you know, had to get better results, and I did that, and I got those better results, and then we sold them, and like for a profit, and just felt like I was a contributor of that, and, you know, to kind of realize that, and I don't realize that in the moment because I don't like to think about that, but like afterward I was like, oh my God, I did that. That's really cool. Like, I can do this in the business. Like, I am a good rider. Like, I can be successful in developing these horses. So in learning from all of those, the hardships and the rewards, I think, especially in speaking of like about me not being able to sell myself, and again, that's something I'm still working on, but that just goes to show, like, I don't think I knew exactly what being a professional meant in so many different aspects. And you as a rider have to be multifaceted. You can't just be the good rider that's going to speak for yourself. You know, you have to go and sell yourself too. So TBD, I'll get back to you on how that's going. I think losing Cawley just taught me that I think that I could compartmentalize in a healthy way, and I could still move forward. You know, it didn't drain me of this sport, of horses, of seeing the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know, I didn't just stay down there with the ugly, and I was able to come up out of it. And out of that, I still had such a passion for horses and such a passion for the sport. And I didn't, you know, let that get me or hold me down. And I think it also just, from the win in Jalapa, just reinvigorated me and gave me so much drive. That was the beginning kind of some more of my Nations Cup experiences. And as soon as I got the bug, and like you were saying, for the North American Youth Nations Cups, you know, you get that little taste, especially if you did well for yourself, or you had a successful round that counted for the team, and you're just like, yes, like, oh, I am so wanting more of this taste. I think those are the things that I learned and gained that I still, you know, as much as sometimes, you know, one day you think this, like, oh, this sport is just, I don't know if I can. You know, the next day I'm like, no, I can. I still love it. You know what?
Yep.
And I think that's a good thing too, to check in with yourself, to make sure you still actually love, you know, it's a sport, but it's with animals. And so not only are you you know, we're, as competitors, we're so focused on the sport aspect.
Yeah.
And it was really just nice to take a beat and get back in touch with horses, and just like why we got into the sport in the first place, and our love of the animal. And it's just like amazing to see what these animals can do, and what we ask of them to do, and just like happily.
Yeah.
So I think that just like reinvigorated my love and passion for the sport. I'm going to throw that question back at you. Some of your best moments, worst moments, and is there something that you learned or took away from them?
I would say some of the harder moments definitely have been injuries. Mm-hmm. I'd say both myself and with my horses. I won't go too specific, but, you know, there's been horses that have gotten injured. They're going to get hurt. They're athletes. Mm-hmm. We're going to get hurt. We're top tier athletes. And I think being able to get, the fitness side of the sport horse world, I feel like is so important. And I feel like that goes back into the behind the scenes work that you don't see every day. We have to flat our horses every day, one day off. And, even if you're not jumping, that's kind of that, the flatting, it's the hard, tedious work that you see behind the scenes that is, you have to motivate yourself to do every day. So I think when you have a horse that is injured, or if you're injured yourself, I'd say that was one of the hardest for me.
I'm sure mentally too.
Yeah, I broke my collarbone, I want to say going on 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was right before Wolff started. And it doesn't sound like a big injury, but you're out for 4 to 6 weeks, and that feels like an eternity while you're living it.
Yep.
And I was like, there's nothing I can do. There's like literally nothing I can do. And then when your horses are hurt, there's nothing you can really do in that point in time.
You don't even know if they're going to come back.
No, exactly. And you don't know how far it's going to go.
Correct.
You don't know how minor it is.
Correct.
And I think something that I learned from those two things is like, you're running your own race. There's top equestrians that you look at, like Margie Engel, who's been in the sport her entire life. And so many other important people that have been in the sport their entire life. And I think that has helped me a lot, because this world is going to be here forever.
Yep.
And a few weeks or a few months or even a year off of that is in the long run is not going to take away from you as a rider and your horses.
Well, I'm sure, especially as a junior, everything is tailored to, you have 17 years to get all those things done that you want to achieve, because then you age out and then you cannot go back.
Right.
So I think especially you being so competitive in the equitation and the finals and everything is geared toward, like, we need to do this and we need to do this now.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that mentality also plays.
Right, and I'm so used to everything being like now, that when people are like, oh, but you have 35, 40, 50 years to go, I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, no, what do you mean? I have 10 minutes. Like, I have to do this right now.
Yeah.
But I think that also goes into some of the best things in the sport that I've experienced so far, and I would say it's quite similar to yours. I wouldn't say it's a specific moment or feeling that I've had, but working with the young horses, or kind of the younger horses, or the more difficult horses that you didn't think were going to play a big role in your life, and them proving you wrong. I feel like that's such a heartfelt thing for me. For example, one of my top horses at the moment, Classical, I started riding him before Maximia, who I train with, at Stonehenge, and he has been such an important role in my career so far. I've jumped some of my biggest tracks on him, and when I first started riding him, I was terrified. He's big, scopy, strong, not what I was used to at all. I was used to those kind of like quick little typey horses, and he just wasn't that. And he was like this big intimidating horse, but at heart, which I love most about him, is he's so sensitive. He is the sweetest horse on the ground, and I truly believe that. But he has taught me so much, and I feel like we've grown together. We've done together what I feel like not a lot of people thought we would, which is empowering, and it makes you feel like, oh, look at me go. But I truly believe that goes to show my connection with him and how much I appreciate every ounce of effort he gives me. I would say something that I've learned from that is some of the smaller victories feel bigger than the big victories. And what I mean by that is, like, you could win a class and you feel great. You could be on a really difficult horse that you've been working towards, you've been failing, you've been having trouble with, and you go and you can have one down in a class, any class. Or you could go clear in a 125, and that feels like the biggest accomplishment. And I really appreciate all of those, moments.
That's big of you to do that now. It's like the young horses. I could have two down. I'd be like, but he did a lead change.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
was fantastic. Good boy.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know. It could be anything. I could, for example, when I first started riding Classical, I could not jump him around at home. Like, I couldn't do it. He was so strong. I was like, oh my God, he's too strong. And I remember the first time I cantered around the Cawley course and didn't have to circle in between, I almost cried. And Max can tell you this story too. I was like, I'm winning medal finals right now over the Cawleys. And I was so happy. And he was kind of looking at me like, what is wrong with you? I was like, this is the best day ever, because I cantered around the Cawley course without circling. And it wasn't even that pretty, I just didn't circle. And I don't know, like those bring me so much joy with the horses and the young horses and even the older horses that you're like working with or having trouble with if you have a bad round, and then going into the next round with a confident, strong ride. I think it's something I'm working on with myself right now as well, and kind of telling myself this out loud to kind of like take it in.
Say it out loud.
Yeah.
And especially I feel like when you go in like one of those rounds you were just talking about with a young one or with an older one that you know there's limited time left and you just enjoy every moment. I think it also helps bring that reality a little bit back to the ones that you put so much pressure on.
Yeah.
I'm Allie Wolff.
And I'm Taylor Cawley.
And thank you so much for joining us for NGP's Trials and Tribulations podcast.